Hi everybody, welcome back to Facebook Live. We are doing once again this Q&A where you guys write in your questions, and to the best of my ability I answer based on my experience in working with spirit. So for those of you who are new, what we like to do is keep it more general, universal questions so that we can all benefit. Anytime I'm doing this, when I get psychic hits for you, the person who wrote in, I will definitely share that. But that's not the intention for this. So I would just encourage you to jump on. You can write in live during this, and I will happily answer your questions. So let's get started.
Yeah, the first question comes from Holly, and she asks, why do some spirits not come through?
So this is great because I just did a group reading, and I'm going to give you a little story to illustrate why some spirits don't come through. So this woman, she asked for her grandmother to come through. And I checked in and I said, she's just not coming. I'm not getting anything. And I asked again. The guide said she's not available. And she said, that's so funny. My dad, who's elderly, has been talking to his father, and his father in spirit is saying that his mother, this man's wife, has moved on. She's in another place. So my dad keeps telling me my grandma is in another place. And so I was able to validate that was true. So here's why. If spirits don't come through, it's usually because they are not able to lower their energy into the astral plane where we meet with the spirits when we do readings, okay? The astral plane is the waiting room between heaven and earth. And spirits will drop down into that waiting room to make the connection because it's a lower vibration. And then after the reading, they go back to their respective places in the spirit world. And a lot of times spirits go to the higher heavens. However, some spirits are so high up, it's too hard to lower their frequency into this dense plane, so they just don't come through. It's a great sign. It means that their energies evolved to a point where they don't need to come down. Selfishly, we want to hear from them. Sometimes the case is that they've reincarnated. So the spirit's no longer in the spirit world. It's back into a body. And as a medium, I don't channel living people, thank God. So I have enough work to do with the dead. So that would be another reason. And the final reason I've experienced is they're quiet. I miss them sometimes. Mm-hmm. And they're just kind of, waiting in the wings, and the more aggressive, loud spirits are dominating. So they're getting pushed back. And if we really tune in, sometimes I can pull them through and validate they're there.
Thank you. So Willie would like to know about how you make your book selections. There's so many books out there. How do we know which ones are legitimate? How do you choose, and how do you make your recommendations? Willie really appreciates your book recommendations.
Oh, thanks, Willie. So the way I choose my books, it's whatever jumps out at me, or synchronistically, if I hear the same book in like 3 times in 1 week, I know Spirit is saying, read this book. Sometimes in my, I have Audible and I have Kindle and I have, hard copies of books. When I feel I gravitate to them, like I just, I go for like a month and I'm like, I'm obsessed with Carolyn Myss and her books, or my Audible from her. And then it'll fall off, and then I'm into something new. So I base it on my feelings, because my feelings are my guidance. My head might be saying, hey, go read Wayne Dyer, but my feeling is, Carolyn Myss. And so I end up opening her book, and there's, an answer to something I've been wrestling with. So use your feelings. Whatever you feel drawn to would be your higher self and higher guides guiding you to that material. And I make my book recommendations off of, I ask, because there's hundreds of books I could put out there, but I literally meditate on it, ask what my audience needs, and the first 3 that I get are the ones I share. But there are many more, and just keep tuning in, because I'll recommend more.
So Betty kind of has a 2-part question. She knows that you talk about how we can raise our energy level to communicate with spirits, but do some people run high, and do spirits then, can they also adjust to where they go at a lower vibration to match us, to connect with us? So, like, can we kind of meet in the middle by raising our vibration, and can spirits come down to
Yeah.
meet ours?
Yeah. So that's, you just basically answered the question. So you just summed up, that's how you do this work. I love that you asked this. I actually just shared this morning with my group reading. The way this works when you do mediumship is the living medium, or you, even if you're not a medium, you're an everyday person trying to connect with your spirits. You raise your vibration and spirit lowers their vibration, and we meet in the middle. And that's just how it works. That's where the magic lies. Spirit's such a high frequency that, and we're high frequency as a soul, but we're physically focused in a very dense earthly body, right? And so we have to do our best to raise our vibrations, again, to match spirit energy in order to make that connection.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is Trisha's question, and it kind of builds off of that. So when we're first starting out with spirit, what can we do to help us make those connections?
To raise your vibration. Yeah. So anything that lights you up and brings you joy raises your vibration, right? You know what I mean by this. It's like there's days you feel great and you're having the best day because you have, you're free to do what you want to do. Let's say you get to be with your kids or your grandkids, or you're going to a concert with friends, or you're going to an art exhibit. Like, what are the things that make you feel good and light you up? Those are the things that naturally raise your vibe. And when your vibe is high, you are matched to spirit energy. And that's where our connection to our intuition and to feeling and sensing energy lies. So for me, I'll give you an example. I am a mermaid. I need sun, warm, and water. I just do. I always have. That was why I moved to Santa Monica back from Detroit. And I was for so many reasons, happy being by the water. And I have to get there. In fact, I had a shaman tell me a few weeks ago, she's like, I don't know what you're doing in the next few weeks, but you have to go to the ocean. She predicted I had a girls' trip set to go to the ocean with, 3 weeks later. So it was good validation to embrace it. But like 3 or 4 times a year, I figure out how do I make that happen, even if it's building in opportunities to work. So I'm still working. But I know for me, that's how I keep offering my service to be a medium to others. And if I don't, it dims my light and my vibe goes low and I can't make the connection. So for some people, they're the exact opposite. They need the winter, they need snow, they need the mountains, right? You have to figure out and you know this based on past experience of how you feel. So check in with yourself, ask, and then from there, that's where you get into that high spirit energy and signs and connections start happening automatically.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Rose has a question about if a spirit was grumpy in life, does that characteristic carry over into the spirit world?
Yeah, so being grumpy, that's an aspect of your personality, which is of the ego, which when we pass away, the mind goes away, right? So really, you do have that aspect of the personality within the soul, but you're more detached and you're more aware. So what I would say to you is we don't change all that much when we initially pass away, when we cross over. We pick up where we left off. And then it's up to us to detach and identify where we could have maybe come from love and not fear, because under the umbrella of fear is grumpy and anxious and nervous and afraid and greedy and negative and all those things, right? And so the whole goal of our soul is to move out of that fear into love, which is being of service to others, kindness, humility, gratitude, joy, right? So it doesn't, yes, that grumpiness can follow the soul, but you're able to identify it and then hopefully choose better and come from a place of love. And that's usually why we reincarnate. You're like, okay, so I need to balance that out, and I'm going to come back and work on You know, I might still have grumpiness as a challenge or negativity or whatever you want to call it, but I'm going to have an opportunity to shift that and to be more grateful and kind and positive and loving. So, yes, I do work. Sometimes I do bring through grumpy souls. That's what you're asking. What else?
So Sharon has a live question, and she asks, how often do you recommend your clients wait in between readings? She's heard that a few months is good, or since it's difficult for the spirits to lower their energy to come talk.
Well, for personal reasons, guidance I've been given is people should wait until they feel compelled to reach out again. Meaning, there's not a one-size-fits-all. For some person, it might be 2 weeks later, they're ready, or their spirits are ready for more. For others, it might be 2 years later. In respect to the spirits, I think that's great guidance, is to wait, because it does take a tremendous amount of energy for the spirits to come through. And even though our egos want it every single day. And so I also like to tell my clients, wait, 6 months to a year, because I never want to send the message you need someone outside of yourself like me to do it. You don't. You can do it on your own and give your spirits a chance to come to you directly on their own. Mm-hmm. So I like to set that boundary for that reason. But I would say to you, pray and ask your spirits and your guides if and when you need another connection, and you will definitely get the clear guidance. And here's another rule of thumb. If you ever feel hesitant or resistant to reach out to someone, a medium, an intuitive, see that as your higher self or higher guide's way of saying it's not the right time. Mm-hmm. You will absolutely act on it when it's the right time.
Thank you. David is asking if you're ever blocked from seeing something, and are you ever told why you're blocked from seeing it?
Yes, that's a great question. A lot. I get blocked, and I've asked and I've been told why. Sometimes as the medium, you're not supposed to know or see. So what I pray is, only show me what my client is ready to hear or receive that's in their highest and best good. And I had an incident where, I'll never forget this, years ago, a woman came to me and she asked about her living children, her 12-year-old daughter who suffered from seizures, and I saw she was fine. And the next day, that girl died from a seizure. And she reached out and she said, why didn't Spirit tell me? And she was devastated. And the guidance I got was, because you would have prevented it. And it was her exit point. She was meant to go. And she said, my daughter always felt like she was an earth angel. She was going to die young. She was at peace with it, but I, as her mother, wasn't. So had we known, we would have interfered, free will. So we weren't supposed to know. So a lot of times, that's the case, and you just have to trust that you will get exactly what you need. And if the medium doesn't receive it, or you meditating and you don't receive it, it's because on some level the universe didn't need you to know, because our egos tend to want to interfere, and sometimes we just have to surrender and trust there's a divine plan and just go with it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So Kim wants to know, if we have a person in our lives who's helped us really learn hard life lessons, ones that we've probably contracted with them to learn, will that person, when that person dies, will they feel regret about some of the actions they took to help us learn, to teach us those lessons? Do they feel regret in those contracts?
Yes, that's a great question. So this goes back to soul contracts. So what has happened through readings is Spirit will come through and apologize for the hurt or pain they caused the living. However, they will then go on, whether it's them or their higher guides or that person's higher guides, to explain the why behind it. And that's where soul contracts come in. And it's Spirit's able to more objectively explain why they caused so much pain and suffering, and that there was a good reason behind it. There was actually consent, meaning even though you the living person who is so scarred by, let's say, your father who abused you on many levels, he comes through and says, I recognize that. I am sorry. I love you. However, your soul and my soul pre-arranged this, because it's sometimes the case is in a past life, it was reversed. The roles were reversed. You were the perpetrator. You were the one who hurt your father. So you had to learn the opposite side of the lesson. Sometimes you, the living person, are the older soul, and you were giving that father the opportunity to show up and do good, but he failed. And his ego got the best of him, and instead he chose from fear, or his addiction got the best of him, and he was abusive as a result, right? And your soul knows you're unharmed. You were just the older soul taking one for the team, letting him have a shot at it. So once you can connect those dots and you realize you're never a victim, you actively agreed to it. And I know it sounds crazy because people all the time say to me, like, why on earth would I agree to losing my child to cancer at the age of 6? That just sounds ridiculous. But on a soul level, you know there's no such thing as death. And you know that we're all here as each other's teachers to help each other to learn and grow. And so if you know that, you're like, okay, fine. I'll go through that lifetime with you. But you have to come back to that knowing to get through it, to have that hope and faith that my child might have left me at 6 and this profoundly changed me. But I always say through those experiences, it takes you closer to or further away from God or faith, right? And the whole goal is to deepen our faith and bring us closer to Source. And so hopefully you wake up, and that's why I do this work, is to show that and to help us remember what our soul already knows, but our mind forgets.
So the next question comes from Candace, and she's wondering about the difference between like co-creating and life lessons, or how they're related to one another. And basically, how does co-creating work if we also have life events and situations that are contracted? And can we change our contracts with co-creation or manifestation?
Yes. Okay, so you can, we have free will. So you can pre-arrange your loose blueprint or life script, okay? You have certain events or karmic lessons that you need to learn or work out with other living souls. And you have them loosely scripted. Then you incarnate, you come into this world, and you go through the world with a ego and personality and free will. So you have free choice to change that script along the way. And so really the best way to do it is to surrender, to pray, to call in your higher self and higher guides to help you make the highest and best choices based in love, not fear, and then go with the flow. And then in there, at any point, if you don't like the way things are going, again, you have that free will to change it, okay? And you're not punished for that. But sometimes you're like, whoa, what was I thinking when I signed up for this? I was overly ambitious, and I am not sure I'm completely up for what I signed up for. And you might then change, say no to certain things. So the bottom line is, if you get out of your own way, you really do surrender to your highest truth and highest healing and go with the flow, you're going to fall into your destiny and you're going to fulfill your contract. But if you, like I said, decide at any point not to do that, you can change it. And sometimes it's okay. There's an alternative. There's plan B. It's not bad. But sometimes it's not also fulfilling your purpose, right? And then you might feel a little bit off or empty, something's missing or depressed. And so all you have to do at that point is get back on track, surrender, and say, okay, I'm ready to get back into this. Go with the flow. You'll move into your destiny.
Thank you. So Jody is asking about what are some ways that we can keep the faith and trust when we feel discouraged or we feel like we're not getting a response or signs from our team spirit, or recognizing maybe we're just not recognizing the signs.
Yeah.
But what can we do to keep going when we feel like we're off track or not connecting?
So that's all real. It happens to me. it happens to everybody. Now, here's the deal. It happens because we get disconnected from our higher self and higher knowing. So when we're not in alignment with that God spark within us, right? We all have access to our higher self and higher guidance, meaning you don't need a psychic to tell you. But when we aren't plugged into it, we forget. And that's where we start to lose faith. Because then we start operating from our mind and our ego, not from our soul and our heart. And you've heard me say this a million times if you follow me. Your guidance is in your heart. Your feelings are your truth. They are your guidance. So the fastest way to shift out of doubt is to get into gratitude. And gratitude lies in the heart and soul, not the head. You can think you're grateful things, but it's different to feel grateful. When you sincerely feel grateful for the littlest thing, like waking up each day, for the sun being out, when you can feel appreciation and gratitude, you raise your vibration. And when you raise your vibration, you're in alignment with your higher self and higher guidance. And that's when miracles start happening. And so when miracles happen, that's where miracles are signs. You get signs, you get synchronicity, you get flow. Your life becomes magical. And that's when you're like, wow, like there really is something bigger behind the scenes orchestrating everything. Versus when you're not there, life is not always fun. It's hard, it's stop and go, you feel resistance, people are negative, it's just like this. And that's where most of us are on a daily basis. And that's where, you're going to laugh if you follow me, but I'm going back to prayer and meditation. That is where prayer and meditation come in. Like, honestly, if I have to sum up my work, it's prayer and meditation. Because prayer is us setting the intention. We're asking for help. We're asking for divine intervention and connection. And meditation is letting go and receiving. It's letting the universe talk to us and guide us, not pull us, like gently glide, help us soar through life, versus us struggling and forcing and trying. So that's my little sermon on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Angie's asking about when you're giving readings, how often are you incorrect? And how do you handle that? And what's your advice for others in that situation?
Okay, so look, we all have our off days. Yes, me included. I do my best to not have off days. And the way I do that is to be responsible and get in to my space to properly read somebody. That's why I don't do impromptu readings. It's just not responsible. If I'm out with my kids at a mall and somebody comes up to me and is like, oh, do you get a read on this? I'm like, you do not want to read from me right now. So I make it a point I have all my rituals and my prayers and what my guides have told me personally. It's different for all of us, what I need to do to ensure you're getting the highest and best read. If after that I work with someone or a group and it is off, what I have learned is it's not me. And it is usually when I get foggy, it's the person I'm reading is foggy. So what's happening is I'm matching their energy. I can only give you what you're ready to receive. So what my healer pointed out to me once was, she's like, Rebecca, you're never wrong. Sometimes the information is not clear because the person's not ready to hear it. And so they're making you feel wrong, or the information hasn't happened, right? And so it looks inaccurate until it happens a day later or 10 years later. And so what you have to really gut check is, okay, and be honest with yourself. Have I done my work? Am I in a grounded, aligned, connected place? And if you can say yes, then you have to look at the person you're working with. And you have to ask, is this about me or is this about them? And you'll usually get, okay, this is about them. And then in that moment, so if you're ever in that situation and you're working with somebody, what I would do is what I do. I stop and I ask them, do you want this? And if you do, the answer is yes, you need to work with me. I can only give you what you're ready for. I need you to get out of your head and get into your heart. Take a few deep breaths, close your eyes, and drop into your heart. Think of someone or something you're grateful for. Gratitude is the fastest way to shift our vibration. So then it usually works. They go into gratitude, they soften their energy, they let down their guard, and I'm able to give them more. And that shifts the energy, therefore the reading. Now, let me just answer this. So sometimes when I give, let's say somebody comes in there and they're like, I'm pregnant, is the baby healthy? And I say, yes, and everything's going to be fine. And then the next day I get an email saying, I miscarried the baby. Right? Well, then I go into doubt, like, I totally misread that, right? Well, maybe I did misinterpret based on my limited vocabulary. In the end, everything is okay. Mm-hmm. The baby's soul, there was a lesson in that. So there's layers of this. My mind, though, jumps to, you were wrong, because that was a simple yes or no answer, and you were wrong. But sometimes you have to go deeper and say, okay, everything's okay. That was supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. And so, do you get what I'm saying? I think what's going on, Angie, is our minds are hard on ourselves, and we want it to be 100% perfect. But it's not. It doesn't work that way with spirit. Mm-hmm. So just keep at it, and the only thing you can be responsible for is the energy you bring into it. So keep working on that, and ask your guides and angels to help you accurately read and interpret. And that usually helps with the process.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So Meredith is our next question, and she asks, do our deceased pets try to communicate with us? And if so, are their gestures or energy or signs smaller?
Definitely not smaller. I would say bigger. I started my group today with 2 dogs that passed away that were like this woman's children, and she's like, that's me. I really want to hear from my 2 babies, and they came in huge. So animals can come through all the time. They're like angels. They're unconditional love packaged in a pet body, sent to us to help us, sometimes us to learn from them, receive from them. What was the question? Do they communicate smaller? They communicate the same way. Yeah. They communicate through feelings and thoughts. That's why I don't do, like, people will say to me, can you connect with animals? Can you connect with people who didn't speak English? And the answer is always yes, because animals didn't speak a language. Mm-hmm. However, you communicate with your animals every single day through feelings and energy. And that's all we do in the spirit world. Same with somebody who spoke Spanish, and I don't. And they communicate by impressing thoughts and feelings into my mind and body. Mm-hmm. And so you can connect with your animal spirits. A lot of times people see animal spirits like down, like from the knees down, running around. Like, if you know, when you look out of the corner of your eye and you see something move and you turn, nothing, that's usually a spirit. If they're low to the ground, it's usually a pet. Mm-hmm. That's what I've learned. So just pay attention, but they're constantly coming in to continue to send you their unconditional love.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm. So Berta is asking, I know you touched a little bit on like life lessons earlier, but she's asking if we choose our life lessons before we're born, do we also get to choose the family that we're born into?
Yes. So you choose everything. I know that might sound crazy, but you choose the gender, you choose your body build, you choose the sound of your voice, you choose your religion, you choose what part of the world you're born into, your every single detail matters, because it tees you up for the lessons that you need to learn. So you might choose a life in a third world country where you need to experience poverty in order to successfully play the role you signed up to play. And there's nothing good or bad about it. We've had hundreds, if not thousands, of incarnations. We've probably experienced every single possible scenario. Okay? And so that's where the victim mentality goes away. If you really can understand this and see that you're not a victim, you actively signed up for this, it gives you so much power and freedom, because then you know, okay, there's a gift in all of this, and you know, I can embrace it knowing that there's growth that gets to come from all of it. And if you don't like what you chose, then make a mental note and remember not to contract that for your next lifetime. So the bottom line is they are predestined, those blueprints or life scripts that we talk about, that we are signing up for. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
What else?
Well, should we do one more?
Sure.
Okay. So Maria wants to know, she had an MRI yesterday and she was seeing vivid colors of violet and green, and she also practices Reiki and she sees colors when she's doing that. So she wanted to know, do you see colors when you meditate or do readings, and do certain colors mean certain things spiritually?
Yeah, I love that you asked that, because today and every day I communicate with dead loved ones, friends, family who died, but angels and spirit guides. And a lot of times my higher light beings, angels, guardian angels, come through as colors. So I'll say, okay, I have George and I have a grandpa off your mom's side and I have a color purple, but a very high, intense guide. It's your guardian angel. And so for me, not for every medium, I see the colors as very evolved, advanced beings. And I'm getting, for you, with your MRI, you are surrounded by angels. And you were seeing their colors to reassure you on a soul level you weren't alone and everything's going to be okay. And they do mean different things, the colors. And there's a book, I think it was Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, who talks about the colors. It might have been Destiny of Souls. He goes into the colors represent different levels of enlightenment. And so you should look that up, because I know purple, indigo, it's a very advanced, realm of angels. So they do mean different things. A lot of times if you're drawn to certain colors, it's because those are either what your frequency, your enlightenment level is at, and or what your spirit guides, angels, are vibrating at. Okay?
Great, thank you.
Okay, so that went by fast. Great questions, you guys. I love that you're asking deeper questions. Like, obviously, this is, if you're drawn to this, it's because you're not afraid of it. You're curious, and on some level, you need it. Like, it recharges all of us. I love talking about it. I love talking about soul contracts and the deeper meaning behind why we go through all these sometimes difficult lessons or experiences, and that's the whole point of it. It's to come together, and that's why I created this group, a safe place for all of us to talk about, like, woo-woo things that honestly are not that woo-woo anymore. I feel like it's getting pretty accepted and more normal, and that's what I want to do, is normalize the paranormal. And I would just say to you, if you're drawn to this, keep on your journey. Keep asking your guides and angels to show you other teachers and resources to help continue this, enlightenment process. Because this is obviously what you need. We need to be the light in this world that's pretty crazy right now, and it needs more of this love and light. And the more we can be responsible for the energy we bring into it and raise our vibration, that's how you show up and be the light. So join me again next month. In the meantime, feel free to write in your questions, or just join me live and write in your questions then. As always, follow me on my social media. You'll have all the up-to-date info on my large events and my small groups. I'm coming to a few cities in the near future, so check out my website for all the information. Great to work with you and connect. As always, brightest blessings and all love.